Hello, I'm Doug Musio. This is City Talk. I'm happy to welcome back Bill Rudin to talk about the Rudin Way and continue our conversations about real estate, Lou Rudin, ABNY. Let's start with ABNY. We ended the last show with a look back at ABNY. Take a look at ABNY now, how it's evolved, where it is now, and where you see it going.
Well, what we've done over the last few years is brought in some new members, some new blood. A lot of the old members are still involved, and we use them as a great resource. But we're looking forward, as you said before. Michelle Adams and Rich LeConte. Michelle's the executive director, and Rich is Michelle's assistant director. And they've brought a new life, new blood into it. We've brought in some new members. And we talked about before in terms of civic engagement. 30 years ago, it was tough for my father to bring people in. Mm-hmm. Today, it's standard operating procedure that companies and individuals want to be involved. They want to be helpful. And we're using that energy of new people to come in and move our agenda forward and make sure that the issues that we think are important, whether it's removing the cap on charter schools, mm-hmm. Homelessness, poverty, the things we talked about before, are addressed and are dealt with.
Okay.
Another issue, big issue, is the rail link from Lower Manhattan
right.
to JFK and Long Island. A huge issue, something we've really been working with our congressional delegation, Senator Schumer and Senator Clinton, and Rebney and the Alliance for Downtown and the city and the governor to make sure that those funds get transferred so we can start building that new tunnel.
So these public-private non-profit connections and partnerships are continually being made, and it seems as if the web is getting larger rather than smaller.
But every day there's a new issue, whether it's eminent domain,
right.
Which has a huge impact on the city. Homeland security, there's another issue we've been out in front on with the mayor and trying to help get the appropriate funding. We talk about this all the time. So those are, we work very closely with the city and the mayor's office to make sure that our agenda and the city's agenda are in parallel. And we, every week there's a politician coming to New York looking for money, mm-hmm. and we have a little card that the mayor made up, and those
yes.
issues are our priorities. And talking about the rail link, charter schools, the funding for Homeland Security. These are important issues that we work on a daily basis.
You're permanent lobbyists.
Well, I wouldn't define ourselves as lobbyists. We're advocates.
Advocates. Let's use the word advocate.
We're advocates for what is good for New York City.
Good. New York City has had a long history of vibrant civic organizations, ABNY being one of them. How would you describe now the health of these civic organizations today, and what new forms of organization do you see as either arising or being necessary?
Well, I think there are a lot of civic organizations, and it's reflective of people wanting to be engaged in the city. And some are, proactive and trying to be helpful. Other organizations, are against things. And so it's the constant balance and trying to make sure that everybody's trying to move at least partially in the same direction. Mm-hmm. But we're in a democracy, we're in a great city, and everybody has their viewpoint, and that's the strength of the city. And sometimes it's the weakness because it delays things sometimes. Sure. And so we try to, if we think there's a big issue that has broad city importance, we will get involved and try to, deal with the NIMBY attitude that sometimes reflects certain issues. And some of these are legitimate concerns that need to be addressed, and others aren't so legitimate, but
still need to be addressed.
Still need to be addressed. And that's, as I said before, it's the strength of this city that people are engaged and having their voices heard.
Good. Let's move now from the Lou Rudin way and the Rudin family way. Let's talk about the Rudin business, Rudin Management. Talk a little bit about the formation of Rudin Management and sort of the great moments, and bring us up to the current day. For example, you've got lots of square foot, you've got some iconic buildings, Your buildings have to be assessed, certainly in the multiple hundreds of millions of dollars. Talk to me.
Well, we're very proud of our heritage, and my generation, my sister Beth, my cousin Eric, my cousin Madeline, we're all very lucky that we have this tremendous portfolio. That's the good news. The bad news is that some of the buildings are older, and we need to keep putting money back into them, which we do. We're very proud of the capital expenditure that we keep putting back into our buildings. You go downtown, you look at 80 Pine Street, or you go to 415 Madison, which was the first office building that my grandfather and his brothers and sisters built in 1955, the year I was born, on 48th and Madison. We still own these buildings. And my father and uncle carried on that tradition of building and putting back into our portfolio the appropriate capital. And we do that now. We add, whether it's technology, whether it's security, we are always looking to make sure that our buildings are at the highest level and the most innovative. If you look at our building in Times Square that we built with Reuters,
almost an iconic building.
Well, the signage, the infrastructure, we call it green, smart, and ready. It combined our technology infrastructure that we designed at 55 Broad Street.
Which I want to talk about.
Which we'll talk about, and combining it to having it environmentally friendly and reducing energy consumption. And, you look at it today, the energy cost, we built this building 7 or 8 years ago, so we were ahead of the curve in terms of making sure that we were energy efficient. Today, all buildings have to have those requirements that we put into 3 Times Square.
Okay, let's talk about 55 Broad as sort of a symbol of your commitment. You long have been a leader in technology smart buildings, and you created a pioneering broadband effort at 55 Broad Street. And I believe it's the first building in New York City that brought broadband connectivity to every floor. And then Reuters just built on that, and both in terms of the information technology, but also the environmental smartness of it. Talk about historically 55 Broad Street and the Rudin commitment to smart buildings, smart classrooms.
Well, we talked about in the other show, downtown in the early 1990s, it was a disaster. I mean, it was 30 million feet of vacant space. It's about 30%. Downtown had 100 million feet in the early 1990s. And downtown was literally, heading in the wrong direction. I mean, Drexel Burnham went out of business. They were a major tenant of ours at 55 Broad Street. That building had originally been built as the headquarters for Goldman Sachs in the early 1960s. And by 1990, we had lost all of our tenants. And we did something that we had never done before. We literally, we took the asbestos out of the building, and we couldn't market it.
And you let it sit.
We couldn't find any tenants for it. So we went through the cycle. We luckily, knock wood, my grandfather's philosophy of having low leverage on our properties. We had a very low mortgage on the building. We were able to carry the building through the tough times.
5 years or so.
5 years, and then literally 11 years ago, in early 1995, the Alliance for Downtown came to us and said, would we take our 55 Broad Street and convert it into a technology building. My associate, John Gilbert, our chief operating officer, had come up with this very unique plan. If you read Nicholas Negroponte's book, Being Digital, on page 212, they talk about the smart ready building, and they said literally, you have a building that you can plug in your computer, and that is the future of real estate. And we took that that page and created 55 Broad Street, and created sort of in the Lou Rudin way, or the Rudin way, of bringing diverse groups together. We had new media companies, we had technology companies, we had universities. We still have Polytech and Cornell University and Carnegie Mellon.
And you have synergies too.
And well, that was the whole point of bringing this whole group of people together, young, smart, no ties, blue jeans, making a 24/7 building. We put in infrastructure so you could literally run the building at a low cost. We created pre-built spaces, and we went from, in 18 months, from 0 occupancy to 100% occupancy. And this fall, in October, we will be celebrating the 10th anniversary. We opened the building in 1996. We will be celebrating our 10th anniversary. We will hopefully have the mayor and the governor there, and all the past tenants and the future tenants and the tenants who are there now, and the people involved in downtown. And that building really sparked the revitalization of Lower Manhattan, because it showed that investment could happen and people would be attracted if you did the right things. And literally, buildings that were trading for $10 a foot in terms of for being sold downtown, because that was the market in 1994 and 5, today are selling for $300 or $400 a foot. So
this provided a model for the real estate industry to produce these buildings that were literally 21st century.
Well, today, anybody who's renovating a building or building a building, this is standard operating procedure to have this type of infrastructure within the building, carrier neutral, which was very unique at that point, where we had multiple carriers so that tenants would have freedom of choice. They could they can go to Verizon, AT&T, MCI, whoever it was. Right. They could have competition, and that was very critical. And today, the building it went through the cycle of the new media washout. But we still have technology companies. We have a New York Software Industry Association incubator in the building. We have companies coming from all over the world, literally moving into 55 Broad again. So it's on its way back up.
Talk to Reuters, the Reuters building. I mean, that's a dramatic, both visual as well as technically smart advance. Talk about Reuters.
Well, Reuters came to us in the late 1997.
Which is, the address is 3 Times Square?
3 Times Square, and they asked us to help them develop this unique building. They were trying to create a new branding image for themselves. That's why they have that great signage on 43rd Street. And we went about developing one of the great buildings in the city. It's a unique building with great retail tenants, great office tenants, and in the heart of Times Square. It's an iconic building, as you talked about before.
Talk about the state of real estate in New York. I mean, those of us who are just jealous that we can't own any of it, not even a closet-sized piece of real estate in New York. It's driving this New York economy. I mean, the budget surpluses have been primarily driven by the tremendous energy in the real estate sector. Can we expect it to continue? How does it continue? Clearly, it's got to move out of Manhattan. The question that I have, and there's several questions, one of which is housing, and that's sort of a second question. At some point, this development almost comes up against the wall of lack of affordable housing, particularly in the other boroughs.
Well, there's no question that affordable housing is an issue. But what you talked about, you can't afford it. But you can't afford it maybe in the exact location you want today. But that's what's great about this city. You see whole neighborhoods that you would have thought, literally, even 2 years ago, you wouldn't want.
Can't afford them either.
Well, we'll talk about a raise with.
Okay, thank you.
But you're seeing neighborhoods, and that's where my grandfather was. He had the incredible vision where he could look at neighborhoods and say something's going to change here, and he'd go in there and buy the real estate, and that's what's happening today. You have literally 30,000 units of housing being built in the outer boroughs. You have about 25,000 units being built in Manhattan, and that means that there is, gentrification may not be the right word, that people, don't feel comfortable with that, but there's neighborhoods that were heretofore not thought attractive are now being literally overnight converted to wonderful neighborhoods.
Dozens of neighborhoods.
And that's coupled with the mayor's education philosophy, his zoning philosophy, and really trying to create an environment, what the government's supposed to be doing, of people coming to invest. You have people literally from all over the world investing in New York City. And look at downtown today. Downtown is the fastest growing population. You have at the end of next year, you'll have about 40,000 people living downtown, which adds to that 24/7.
Right.
You've got the Trade Center development. You have literally probably $20 billion of investment going downtown, public and private, whether it's the World Trade Center, whether it's the Calvatrata train station, all the housing, Whole Foods. Tiffany was announced last week that they're going to be in Wall Street. I mean, these are all incredible things for downtown.
So those of us who look at downtown and say, look at the hole in the ground, we're missing the larger context, because around the hole in the ground is all this commercial and in fact residential ultimately development.
Well, I wish I could have that clicker that Adam Sandler's moving and fast forward 5 years from now, because you will see the greatest central business district in the world. Because of all this money that's being pumped in there. I mean, I don't think you can find another central business district that has almost $20 billion of public and private money being invested downtown. Okay,
you talked about all these large developments, Lower Manhattan, Brooklyn, West Side, all throughout the city. But all this stuff is coming online, Atlantic Yards, downtown, at the same time. Couldn't this have some rather perverse consequences, like cost escalation of construction materials, heavy demand on labor? I mean, all of this stuff coming into the pipeline at the same time. Traffic alone. I mean, could we be choking on our own success?
Well, first of all, New York has always been about building.
Okay.
I mean, we built a building in Times Square. Literally 100,000 people an hour walk by our site. I mean, this is part of the New York, and everybody likes to complain about it, but it's just part of it.
Won't have an effect on cost?
There's definitely an effect on cost. We've seen escalating construction costs, and you may see some projects not pencil out.
And also financing, you would think too. And
there's plenty
of a lot of capital.
There's plenty of capital in the pipeline, and not everything is coming along at the same time. But they're obviously, you've got the stadiums, you've got downtown, you've got the water treatment plant up in the Bronx, you've got. We are to some degree captive to our own success, but that's you have to look at. You can't look at it. I made a presentation this morning to a brokerage firm. You just can't look at it as a snapshot today. You got to look at this over a 20, 30, 40, 50-year period, and we'll look back in 10 years from now, and this will be, the city will be so much better than it is today. Because of all this infrastructure that's being put in.
Okay, let's talk about the larger. You talked about the large amount of capital. The real estate industry, as I've known it as a kid growing up in the 50s and 60s and looking back as a professor, has been in the hands of families. The Rudins, the Roses, the Wilpons. There are a series of families out there that have done this. And the businesses, for the most part, have remained family, even though some have gone public. You folks have not. Isn't the environment changed to such a degree that with all this money out there and the small amount of land out there, that you and those families, in some senses, are not endangered, but are in a radically different environment?
It is a different environment, but we have to adapt. I mean, the Dursts are building, the Resnicks are building. We've been looking at different projects, but no, there's definitely new players, but that adds new blood into the marketplace. And there's foreign investors. There are REITs.
REITs?
Real Estate Investment Trusts.
Okay, I mean, I know a lot of the acronyms.
Like Vornado and.
Okay.
But that's the beauty of New York City, and that was what drove my great-grandfather and my grandfather, the opportunity to start with nothing and create something. And that opportunity, even though the numbers are higher, are still there. I mean, companies, we didn't know 5 years ago who a lot of properties were, or Extel, and they are now, one of the bigger developers in the city. So it's good because it creates opportunities for people. We don't have to do every project in the city, and when the right deal comes along for my family, we'll invest our money and be developing something.
What deals are out there?
We look at a lot of deals. We look at everything, many different things every single day.
You're not giving me any. Come on.
No specifics right at the moment.
Okay. How do you determine that a deal is both doable and wantable?
Well, we sit around, like we do everything else. We sit around, a table, and we meet with Jack and the rest of the executive committee of Rudin Management, and we roll up our sleeves, run our numbers, do our analysis, see if it's financeable, see if it's rentable, and make a decision. And sometimes we make the right decisions, and other times we've made some not so right decisions. But in the when you average everything out, I think we've done more right than we've done wrong, and we're very conservative.
But you don't turn buildings over; you keep your buildings.
We are long-term owners, and that I think is very
a huge plus. I mean, just the testimonials of folks in terms of dealing with you, tenants, superintendents, anybody you talk to, it is this almost this loyalty to family again.
Well, it's today you talk about a brand, the Rudin brand,
okay.
The Rudin name.
Okay, what's the Rudin brand?
Well, I think it's synonymous with quality service, with well-kept buildings, responsiveness, and still family ownership. That we haven't sold. We're not a publicly traded company. We don't have to, be responsive to quarterly earnings reports. We can make our decisions very carefully and very thoughtfully, and there are decisions. They're not, we're not impacting, other people.
Sure.
So it's, it is frustrating on one side that, we can't, necessarily do as many projects as we like, but it's a cyclical market, and at a certain point in time there'll be opportunities, and maybe there are opportunities now. We just we got to see where we go.
Does Bill Rudin always stay in real estate?
Well, I may, after my experience of producing the film, may switch over to yes, real estate's in my blood. And,
what's the charge? What's the juice?
Just waking up every day and being in the city, and being with my family, with my wife and my children, who were, they keep me honest and straight, and keep me on on a clear path to make sure that we do the right thing every day for our business.
Next generation of Rudins?
Well, I've got my daughter Samantha and son Michael, and I got cousins, young cousins and young nieces
real
and
estate folks.
Who knows? Michael's working right now at Cushman & Wakefield for the summer as an intern, and Samantha just graduated from NYU. You never know where, hopefully they do what they think is best for them. And if they want to be in real estate, the opportunity is there. If they want to pursue other things, that's their choice.
Good going, Dad. Let's talk about Mike Bloomberg. You were highly praising Mike Bloomberg in the last show. Talk about Mike Bloomberg, what he's done for the city, potential downsides to the Bloomberg leadership. I mean, I know that you're a big fan.
Well, I don't see any downside. I mean, the mayor has really taken on a lot of issues that other politicians wouldn't necessarily take on because of where he's coming from. He's not going for re-election. He's term limited. He's already said he's going to dedicate after his term ends to go into philanthropy and give his money away.
So no presidential race for Mike Bloomberg.
Not from what I know, but who knows?
Right,
but he's focused on this city, and he understands what the important priorities are, whether it's gun control, whether it's education, whether it's zoning. He's real, and he's brought in an incredible team. All his deputy mayors, his commissioners, they are totally responsive. May not necessarily agree with everything, but they're open. They listen to constructive advice, and I think they've done an excellent job of managing and running the city.
Talk about zoning. Talk about the zoning dilemma that an Amanda Burnham, as chair of the commission, faces between upzoning in certain areas and downzoning in others. How does zoning, I mean, that's part of the matrix of things that you look at. Talk about zoning in New York, very briefly.
Well, first of all, I think one of the mayor's legacies, when we look back 10 or 15 years, will be the significant zoning changes they initiated over the last 5 years, the first 4 years, and now in the second term. Whether it's the West Side, whether it's in the outer boroughs, and in Long Island City or in Brooklyn, you're going to see a tremendous revitalization, as we talked about before, in these neighborhoods. Zoning is it's a delicate balance of dealing with the community's needs versus dealing with long-term economic viability, and making these areas, the zoning, financially feasible. As you talked about before, construction costs have gone up. So it's a tough balancing act to make sure that you have enough zoning to be able to afford to do the housing,
Right.
the affordable housing you talked before. So there are all these trade-offs, and I think they've navigated those waters reasonably well.
Schools. Clearly, we need the educated, diverse workforce. What needs to be done? What can ABNY do to help us?
Well, I think the first thing is to get the charter school cap lifted. That's very critical and something we've been working on. And that
Major?
It has. I think it has a major impact.
Go ahead. What else?
Well, I think continuing with what the mayor and Chancellor Klein have been doing is giving more autonomy to the principals in each school, providing reducing the bureaucracy, getting the money to the classrooms. Those are all critical, and I think the mayor and Joel Klein have been focused on those.
Who runs the city in 2009? I mean, look at the political leadership and the civic leadership. What's out there, and what do we expect?
Well, I think there's several candidates that have either run for office before or in office now who have started to make the rounds and discuss their views on the city, and I think all of them are qualified. I mean, Mayor Bloomberg, I think, has set a new standard in terms of what a mayor of the city needs to have. He's got to have political instincts, but he needs to have a business instinct. He needs to have a broad-based view of the city, and I think you'll see a very qualified field of candidates appearing over the next year or so.
Are they sort of the traditional political candidates, or is it also a businessman outsider? Because the description of the candidate you just mentioned could fit one Bill Rudin.
Well, Bill Rudin's definitely not running for anything.
Oh, no.
So that's one. But
what about somebody coming out of the business sector?
It could be. I think, as I said, the mayor's created that paradigm that a business person can come into and come from relative obscurity to run the city. But I think what more importantly is that the political candidates, the people who are in politics, now have to define themselves to the mayor's standard, and they need to think that it's not just about being reelected, it's about what's right for the city, and look at it in a different way.
Excellent. Thank you. It was a pleasure, both conversations. Hopefully we'll have more.
Thanks
very much.